So here you have Dennis Dunlap. And Dennis Dunlap is going to be the guy who killed Judy Whitley. He killed 17-year-old Judy Whitley, and then he's going to kill Mickey Blue. He's a former Clifton, Texas police officer. And he killed 2 women. Most likely to rape them, and then with Mickey Blue to rob her. So this is Dennis Dunlap. And he had killed both of these ladies right here. This is Judy Whitley. She was 17 years of age. She walks out of her house to go get a Coke, a Coca-Cola, and she never returns. This here is Miss Blue, Mickey Blue, Joe Byron's wife. And these 2 murders happened within 4 months of each other, and only about 1 mile apart. And who did it? This guy right here, Dennis Dunlap. So let me give you a little information about Dennis Dunlap. Dennis Dunlap was a Clifton City policeman. Judy Whitley was 17 years old. She was raped and she was murdered 4 months before Mickey Blue was killed. She was bound and gagged with duct tape. Her nude and bound body was found less than a mile from Joe and Mickey Blue Bryan's house. Joe Whitley was in charge of both of the investigations of Mickey Blue and Judy Whitley. Dennis Dunlap was a drifter. He worked for several small-town police departments and he had trouble keeping his job. Dennis Dunlap had a history of violence against women. Dennis Dunlap was known to harass and stalk women while he was on duty. Dennis Dunlap was not a homicide detective. He didn't investigate Judy Whitley's murder officially, but he did know a bunch about the case. He surprised his colleagues by how much he knew. He even described how Judy Whitley had been suffocated. Suffocated. She had been killed by asphyxiation. Hey! Why are you barking so crazy? Come down. Dennis Dunlap was briefly considered a suspect, but when he abruptly resigned and left town, the investigators lost interest in him. The evidence in the case was stored in a police locker, and it also too disappeared. He would also return to Clifton periodically. He kept showing up to the house when Judy Whitley was murdered, snooping around, asking questions. And then there was a rumor that Judy Whitley had a diary. She had a diary, so therefore she had written it all down. She'd written it all down, and then when they went to the grandmother's house to look for the diary, the entire house blew the fuck up. The evidence cabinet in the police station was ransacked. It was taken. The evidence wasn't in the... This guy's not only committing these crimes, but he's sabotaging all the investigation of it. Dennis Dunlap was probably pressured by the Clifton police to just leave town, because that would be embarrassing to the police department that one of their own committed the murder. So it was just best for him to leave town and let the high tempers subside. In 1996, Dennis Dunlap was working as a janitor in the town of Rosenberg, Texas. His girlfriend called 911 when the police arrived. They found him in the garage, hanging with a cord around his neck, so he's going to kill himself in 1996. When did these murders take place? Well, I'll say it was 1985. So a good duration. It took him 11 years, but somebody was getting close. Dennis Dunlap went through Dunlap's personal items. They found letters and newspaper clippings that led them back to the murders in Clifton. A new police chief reviewed the Judy Whitley case and interviewed Dennis Dunlap's former associates. They recalled his intimate knowledge of the most gruesome aspects of the rape and murder in June 1999, 14 years after the murder. So yeah, it'd be 1985. The Clifton police declared the crime solved. The headline in the town's newspaper declared, Dennis Dunlap, officially named murderer of Whitley teen. There would be no justice for Mickey Blue Bryan, nor for her husband. They weren't going to reopen that case because Joe was convicted. Joe Bryan can never forget people like Joe Willie, Ron Brenand, and Robert Thorman, but he's forgiven them. Who killed Mickey Bryan? Who killed Mickey Blue? Dennis Dunlap. Dennis Dunlap. He didn't have a good reputation. He's a drifter, floating in and out of jobs. He's got the power to do it, the inclination to do it. He's got a history of violence against women. He likes to harass and stalk them. He wouldn't take no for an answer. He knew too much about the case. And when he was considered a suspect, he resigned and left town abruptly. Then the grandmother's house is going to blow up, and when it comes to Mickey Blue, he had actually told a former girlfriend, or his ex-wife, was a former girlfriend or ex-wife, that he was there with Mickey Blue on the night that she was murdered, and also that he had killed her. He was having an affair. He was having an affair with Mickey Blue. He was there on the night she was murdered. And he had killed her. Now, the reason why this is all significant, right? I mean, people kill people, often. This is an old case, so why am I even bringing this up? Well, this guy right here, who is happily married to Mickey Blue, is going to get the shaft. He's going to get the shaft. He's going to be convicted of murdering this woman that he loved. And then her name is going to get tarnished because people are saying that there was an extramarital affair. He is an absolute sweetheart. He is like a Mr. Rogers. It does, just his personality, it strikes me as odd that anybody would think that he could do it. But I guess it's possible. Anybody could, break down. But he's going to spend 33 years in jail. He's going to be convicted, and then it's going to get overturned because of the life insurance. They said, well, $300,000. It was actually $150,000. Why would he do something like this? For the money, he was a principal, so he's making decent money. When he's in jail, he's going to have the best behavior ever. No shakeups, just 7 paroles. 7 times he's going to get rejected. And he says that if they're willing to sacrifice Joe Bryan, why? To protect the integrity of their case, to protect their lives. There was a blood splatter analyst. Mickey Blue, according to Joe Bryan, was Joe Bryan's soulmate. And he says his advice is, if you're innocent, keep fighting. Keep fighting the case. Eventually, he's going to be released on March 19th, 2020. There was a federal lawsuit that was filed on his behalf, but it's going to get dismissed in 2022 because they said that the conviction wasn't overturned. So he was released, but that's because he had some health problems, and then he's going to die September 2024. And so that means America stole 33 lives, 33 years of this guy's life. Joe Bryan had 33 years of life stolen from him because cops are inept. They couldn't do a good investigation. Once they've arrested a person, there was a presumption of guilt. They wanted to make what little bit of evidence they had fit the narrative they had already created. They even suggested that he was gay. And it does seem like the other evidence, I don't want to get too bogged down into the minutia of the evidence because we haven't sorted through, the minutia of the evidence against Dennis Dunlap. They're going to conclude that he had definitely murdered Judy Whitley, but they're not going to conclude that he had murdered Mickey Blue. But Joe Bryan believes that he did. So does the sister of Judy Whitley. He told his ex-wife that he did. His personality, his rap sheet, his behavior, his record, his history, all suggest that he did. And so let me just float a theory, because some people, they need the smoking gun. So when you get into the case, you might think, well, hell, maybe this other guy did do it. Dennis Dunlap committed a murder against Judy Whitley, a 17-year-old who goes out for a coke. He's going to kidnap her. He's going to bound her with duct tape. He's going to rape her. He's going to kill her. And he's going to dump her out in the woods. Why do people commit crimes? Why did he become a cop? For power. A lot of times, why do men rape? Is it just the lust? A lot of times it has to do with power. So less than 1 mile in the same town, a small town, 3,000 people, kind of an everybody knows everybody kind of deal. Judy Whitley, 17-year-old, was killed by Dennis Dunlap, a police officer, a person who was in a position of authority who could easily sabotage the investigation, steer the investigation. When he became a suspect, he disappears. The grandma's house blows the fuck up. Nobody seems to think that's suspicious. Judy Whitley was fucking murdered, and then her grandmother's house blows up. Thankfully, nobody got killed. Here's a newspaper clipping. Death of local teenager investigated as a homicide. You think? You think? Bound and gagged, strangled to death. What do you think? She duct taped herself? Raped herself? It's fucking incredible what people... So when it comes to Joe Bryan's life was absolutely ruined. I'm going to get into some of the minutia. I got some things to read here. Let's take a look at Joe Bryan. What did they do with Joe Bryan? What happened with Joe Bryan? Well, Joe Bryan's entire life is going to be ruined. To say the least. I like his picture. So let's look at this picture while I talk about what did we do to Joe Bryan? What did we do to Joe Bryan, you motherfuckers? Oh my God. we as a society, I know you didn't do it specifically, but when you think about what we did as a society, not only is he going to get, his wife was killed, the love of his life, his soulmate, but then he's going to get thrown in jail, and I can't find, oh, here we go. So prison is a dreadful place, even for those who deserve it. For an innocent person, it's a continuation of an unimaginable nightmare. For Joe, it was the end game, the final stop, the place he would never leave. For Joe Bryan, he was robbed of the person he loved, falsely accused by trigger-happy cops, wrongfully convicted by a corrupt system, and banished to a hellhole where he was supposed to die. He immediately fell into a state of dark, endless depression. In his first days and nights at Huntsville, he was numb to his surroundings and withdrawn. He felt like a zombie, sleepwalking through the daily routines while trying to convince himself that through some miracle, the nightmare would end. The loneliness was achingly painful. Predators attacked him twice, but he fought them off and was left alone. So a whole bunch of things, you got Robert Thorman. My conclusions were wrong. Some of the techniques and methodology were incorrect, so therefore some of my testimony was not correct. But in no way did I lie on my report or testimony. I was just doing what I thought was correct as a result of the training at the time. So we got to protect the guy's ego, his fucking reputation, his fucking namesake. You made a mistake, But to always double down on bullshit. There was a DNA analyst that testified. He tested 6 tiny stains on the flashlight lens. 5 were negative for the presence of blood. The 6th was positive, or what do they say? Presumptive, but it could not be determined whose blood it was. DNA samples were taken from the handle of the flashlight. Joe and Mickey were both excluded. So whose hand was on the flashlight? So I'm going to float a theory about what had happened, because this flashlight is going to come up here in a second. So this guy's been pursuing Mickey Blue Bryan. He'd already killed this Judy Whitley, this 17-year-old Judy Whitley. So what does he have to lose? He's resigned. He leaves the force. He leaves Clifton, but he comes back to Clifton. Why does he keep coming? Clifton is like 2 hours west or east of Waco. And we all know what happened in Waco. So he lost his job, right? He's been going in and out of jobs, can't hold a damn job. Now, he was a janitor. He's going to hang himself. I mean, when you have the power of a police officer and then now you're a janitor, he kind of already threw his life away. And so, what could he lose? For some reason, he knew that she was alone, found out she was alone, stalked her. Maybe there was some kind of affair, I don't know. Joe Bryan doesn't believe it. What Joe Bryan believes is that, and I heard him say this, he's dead now. He died just a couple months ago. And he only got to enjoy the last 3.5 years of his life. He thinks that Dennis Dunlap had pursued Mickey Blue. There was no relationship. And that he committed murder again. He said that he was with her the night that she was killed. He committed murder against Judy Whitley, 17-year-old. She was raped, which looks like that's what happened to Mickey Blue too. It happened less than 1 mile away. He bragged to an ex-wife that he did it. The grandmother's house blows up. So somehow he comes across the knowledge, maybe because the car wasn't in the damn driveway. The car wasn't in the driveway. Joe Bryan was out in Austin, Texas on some sort of principals association. And so he either stops by, calls her, sees her out and about, sees that the car's not in the driveway, goes in, is in the house, maybe he strangled her, maybe it was consensual, he finds the flashlight. He said, Joe Bryan said the last place he saw the flashlight was on the dresser, but he was mistaken about the money. There was supposed to be $1,000 in a metal case. They found the metal case but no money, but then they said that he found the money in an envelope in the car later on. It does seem weird that Joe Bryan didn't drive his Mercury car. When they go to arrest him, he asks, what evidence? And then the flashlight, that's weird to me too. But I guess just like there's some people that want people to be guilty, there's other people that want people to be innocent. And it sucks because in order to prove your innocence, you can never really prove guilt or innocence, beyond a reasonable doubt. And so you can only go with 90%, 91%. It does seem crazy to me that there was the flashlight that was in the trunk and it had tested for O positive, and there's some... So what explains the flashlight? That's the best argument against everything I'm saying. There seems to be red specks on a flashlight that was located in Joe Bryan's trunk. And with the blood that was splattered, they acted like there was blood all over the bed. The blood was actually kind of concentrated in one part of the bed, so it looks like she was shot and killed right there on the bed. Maybe shot and killed in her sleep. But there's blood on all the walls, so it makes me think, how did blood get on all the walls? He shot her from one direction, then another direction, then another direction. It's a .357 Magnum, and it was birdshot. But it explains why there was no forced entry, so nobody broke in. He just goes up and knocks on the door. There's some DNA that's on the handle. So what explains the flashlight? Okay, here's what explains the flashlight. You got this Texas Ranger, Joe Willie. He's got all this pressure to solve this Judy Whitley case. He can't solve it. Now you got 2 damn murders. Well, shit, are they connected? Of course. If you're in a small town, why would you not presume that it's connected? 2 murders had happened and nobody knows who done it. Nobody was arrested. So Joe Willie's got to get a conviction. He's got to push for this thing. And apparently the person that finds the flashlight, there's a private investigator and they're just driving around talking about it. Then they got to take a leak and then they got mud on his shoes. And do you have a towel? Yeah, I got one in the trunk. Opens up the trunk, sees the flashlight, and then there's no blood in the car. No blood on his clothes, no witnesses. There was a couple fingerprints. At first they didn't find any fingerprints, but then they found about 30 fingerprints in the room. They found a palm print, and then they found a cigarette butt. Neither one of them smoked. So the palm print wasn't Joe's or Mickey's. The fingerprints, they're trying to say that they shot Mickey Blue. He comes in, sneaks in, drives a bunch of ways. He's got bad eyesight, driving through a thunderstorm. Drives 2 hours away, gets only a few hours of sleep, wakes back up at 8:30, eats breakfast at the principal meeting. So they think he's like a fucking mastermind. 2 human hairs were found in a cardboard box in the trunk of Joe's Mercury that didn't match his or Mickey's. Why would there be 2 human hairs in a cardboard box in the trunk of Joe's Mercury? There was DNA that was on the side of the flashlight. Some fingerprints from the bedroom were Joe's, but it was his bedroom. Some fingerprints were found on the flashlight. He never denied owning it. An unidentified palm print was taken from the bedroom. A chemist from the state crime lab testified she examined the photographs of the flashlight under the microscope and seen a fragment she believed could have been from the plastic shell casings found at the crime scene. When it comes to the investigation, guess what the state doesn't have? Oh yeah, whoopsie daisy. We don't have the flashlight. So this is the infamous flashlight. Let's take a quick look at it. And here's the bedroom, right? So at first it does look like it, and so, well, open and shut case, right? I mean, look, there's like blood droplets splattered all over the wall, but that's pretty dark. And then there's some blood that's on this picture frame, and you see how it's on the glass, and so you see how it's dripping down. If blood would splatter from the bed all the way up to there, then you would kind of think it would look similar to this. Somebody said when they looked at these droplets here, it didn't seem like there was any consistent. It wasn't like the droplets were all going one direction. Why wasn't there any blood on the handle? They said, well, his hand was on the handle. Well, not the whole handle. Maybe he had it pointed straight. It's not dark blood. Someone suggested it could be motor oil or power steering fluid. Could be something else. Maybe it was her blood at some other time. Who knows? Here's another picture of it. And so, upon closer examination, you got a little, some droplets. Black. Can you have some back splatter? Because when you shoot somebody, I would assume most of the blood goes with the bullet, but apparently there would be some back splatter. Right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I think that'd be a good experiment to do, to shoot at something with like water in it, and then see if some of the water comes back towards you, and how much of it, and how far would you have to be in order for it to actually hit the... So it doesn't look good, but in order to believe that he had done that, you would really have to believe that he was a criminal mastermind and that he just did so many things. You'd also have to not hear him talk and not know his personality. If you look at the picture frame, you got, some of the blood is dripping. How come there's none of this is dripping? And then how come they didn't have the flashlight for the trial? All they had was pictures of the flashlight for the trial. So there's definitely some redness in there. Why was it in his trunk? Well, I'll tell you why. Joe Willie. Joe Willie needed a conviction. Joe Willie put it there. And you might say, well, how come the other investigator found it? Well, that's perfect, isn't it? Somebody else planted, somebody else finds it. Eventually, they're going to get around to it. He was a principal, so I guess I'm not saying he doesn't have the intelligence to do it, but he doesn't have the inclination, he doesn't have the personality, persona. It just seems too fantastic. And then the guy does say that his conclusions and methodology was wrong with how he had looked at the flashlight. 5 of them didn't come back saying it was DNA, so I'm not sure why the 6th one did. There was an O type. They said that it was blood that was O type, which, essentially matches millions of people. It's like the most popular blood type. You only had 4 blood types, so they didn't do the DNA testing back then, they just could test for the blood type, so it's one of four. It's either A, B, or O. So that's kind of a 25% chance, and then type O is the most popular, so therefore it's even higher than 25% chance that it could be anybody's blood. It's also possible they did something else. I don't know. She cut her finger. Could it be an animal? Maybe they killed an animal. They did shoot, rattlesnakes and copperheads. So if there's black splatter with people, could there be black back splatter? So if you need to push for conviction and you have no evidence whatsoever, but you just feel like in your gut it's him because you got to get the conviction, and then once he arrests the person, then the presumption of guilt is, well, why would they arrest the person? Why would they, if they didn't have the goods on them, why would they arrest the person? There's no blood in the car. There's no blood in the front or the back or anywhere else. He would have had to scrub himself pretty clean. And then he forgot about the flashlight. He just forgot that he had it while he was shooting her. The .357 gun is missing. So he's going to, toss it out on the interstate? He's got bad eyesight. It's thunderstorm. Why wouldn't he throw the flashlight if he was so meticulous with everything else? How come there's 2 human hairs found in a cardboard box in the trunk of Joe's Mercury? Who's these 2 human hairs connected to? Is that Joe Wiley's? I'm kind of curious about where Joe's Mercury was. When he was in Austin, Texas, he had people drive him because he was just so shaken. So I guess I got a little bit more to talk about on this, but that's most of it. What the state is alleging is pretty fantastic. So they're saying that this real peaceful Christian man who was beloved principal by all, he was even in jail. He maintained being a Christian. He said that when he taught the prisoners, he kind of lined them all up as kindergartners. He would help them with their GED test. And so he took some pride. And look, all these pictures, they are just beaming. They're just happy, right? 2 careerists, doing pretty good. Got good clothes, proud of themselves. Smiling, genuine smiles, genuine goodness, genuine heart and soul there. So it's hard to believe. I can't totally explain the flashlight, but just because I can't prove the evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm more than 91%, beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm more than 91% of his innocence and more than 95% of Dennis Dunlap's guilt. Is it possible the forensic crime lab came back with, they suggested, we're thinking it's O-type, so can you come back here? And then how come the other ones didn't determine if it was blood or not? What was the foreign DNA on the handle? What was the foreign hair samples in the box? Hell, maybe the investigator fucking planted it. I don't know. I don't even know if he admitted to the flashlight or known about the flashlight. The last he saw it was on the counter. Could they have somehow got the blood and sprinkled it on it? I don't know. If the guy had used it, Dennis Dunlap, and left it at the crime scene, then maybe they took the flashlight and put it into... They took his car for 4 days, so no telling what they did with the car. And did they see the flashlight while they were with him, and did they mention it to him? That'd be interesting testimony. Because if they took his car, then, oh, by the way, we found this flashlight. Yeah, right. Bullshit. Bullshit.